Hey there, dear listener. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine yourself standing at the edge of the world. Before you lies an endless white expanse stretching as far as the eye can see, blanketed in thick layers of snow and ice. The sky, a pale wash of blue, hangs low above the frozen landscape with the faint glow of a winter sun that never quite reaches its full brightness. A soft, biting wind brushes across your face, carrying with it the cold, crisp scent of frozen earth. All around you, the world is still, almost too still. It's a place where survival is an art, where nature itself decides whether you live or die. Tonight, we journey into the harsh and unforgiving heart of the Arctic, a place where few dare to tread. This isn't a tale of conquest of battles won or lost. No, this is a story of survival of those who thrived in a land that seemed impossible to conquer. It's the story of the Inuit, a people who have lived for centuries in the coldest corners of the world, mastering the arts of hunting, shelter building, and surviving the endless winters. They have known this land long before the first ships arrived on the horizon, long before outsiders even dreamed of crossing the ice. But of course, the world is never as quiet as it seems. In the distance, far beyond the horizon, a new threat was coming. A threat not made of ice and snow, but of ambition and foreign hands reaching into places they shouldn't be. The explorers arrived, seeking to map the unknown, to claim what they thought was theirs, to conquer the unyielding wilderness and its ancient inhabitants. The Inuit, however, were not easily swayed by the promise of gold or glory. They had their own world, their own way of life. And this is where our story begins. Picture it now, the Arctic, a land of biting cold, endless ice and snow, so deep it seems to swallow everything whole. A land where the sun barely rises above the horizon during the long winter months, and where the nights stretch on for weeks. It's a place where even the strongest of animals must adapt or face certain death. For those who live here, it's a world of constant struggle. Every day is a test of endurance, of skill, and of knowledge. For the Inuit, this was their home, a place they knew better than anyone else, passed down through generations. The Inuit had long mastered the cold, the wind, and the endless white that surrounded them. With little more than the tools made from their surroundings, they built homes from ice and snow igloos that kept them warm despite the freezing temperatures outside. They navigated the frozen wilderness with ease, using sleds and kayaks made from wood and animal skins. They hunted seals, whales, and caribou with remarkable precision, utilizing every part of the animals to survive, from the meat to the fur bones and even the blubber, which provided warmth in the dead of winter. Over time, the Inuit developed a deep connection with the land, learning to read the signs of nature like no one else could. The weather, the animals, the stars, they all spoke in ways the Inuit had learned to understand. They knew when the ice would break, when the seals would come to the surface, and when the winds would shift. To survive here, one had to become part of the land, not merely a visitor. The Inuit had lived this way for generations, thriving in the harshest of environments, adapting, surviving, and flourishing despite the odds stacked against them. But as the 19th century unfolded, the Arctic, once a place untouched by the ambitions of outsiders, became the target of European explorers. They came from far away with their ships and their maps determined to chart the frozen expanses to conquer what they saw as uncharted territory. These explorers were driven by the search for new trade routes, the dream of finding a way through the icy waters that would bring riches and glory. They were not prepared for what awaited them in the frozen wilderness, nor did they understand the people who called this land home. And so, as you lie back drifting into the soft embrace of history, imagine the Inuit watching from afar. These explorers, with their strange ships and heavy clothes, were nothing like the creatures of the land. They stumbled across the snow, fighting the wind, cold, and unfamiliarity. They carried with them their maps, their dreams, but they lacked the one thing that had allowed the Inuit to survive in this desolate land for centuries knowledge. You can almost hear the wind picking up as the Inuit stand silently on the outskirts of the explorers' camps, watching them struggle with the cold. It's an odd sight. Men who think they've conquered the world, yet here in the icy heart of the Arctic, they are little more than children, lost in a vast and indifferent wilderness. The Inuit have seen this before. They've seen explorers, fur traders, and others come and go. Some had good intentions, others not so much. But in the end, they were all the same foreigners to a land they would never truly understand. The Inuit didn't need maps or compass directions. They had a different kind of wisdom, one that came from living in harmony with the land rather than trying to impose their will upon it. They knew where to find food when the snowstorms raged, where to find shelter when the cold bit at their bones. And as the explorers pressed on, they came to realize that this was a place they could not conquer, not in the way they had conquered so much of the world. As the days grew colder and the nights longer, the explorers became more desperate. The ice, the snow, and the wind proved to be far more powerful adversaries than they had anticipated. Supplies dwindled and morale sank. The Inuit, however, had no such fears. For them, winter was merely another season to endure, one that had been lived through for generations. And so, while the Europeans struggled, the Inuit moved with ease, their lives uninterrupted by the cold and snow. But there was something different now, something new tension. The Inuit had learned to live in this frozen world for centuries, but these new visitors, these explorers brought with them a sense of unease. The land was theirs, but now there were intruders. And like the land itself, the Inuit were not quick to give it up. In the quiet moments between the howling winds, one can almost hear the whispers of the Inuit, their voices barely audible over the storm, but resolute. They knew the time was coming when they would have to protect their home, whether with words or with force. They weren't warriors, not in the way the Europeans might have imagined, but they had something more powerful: knowledge of the land and a way of life that had endured for thousands of years. As you settle deeper into your rest, let the quiet of the Arctic fill your mind. Imagine the winds of the north, the harsh cold, and the strength of a people who had learned to live with it all. The Inuit survival was never about domination or conquest, but about living in balance with the world around them, finding strength in the stillness of winter. As the explorers faded into the distance, their journey a failed attempt to conquer the unconquerable, the Inuit remained their world untouched. Their survival, a testament to the power of knowledge, resilience, and the cold embrace of the winter's night. So let the winds of history guide you as we drift into the story of how the Inuit faced the cold intrusion of the world beyond their frozen borders in a battle not for land, but for survival. Imagine, if you will, the scene unfolding at the edge of the known world. The 19th century is just beginning, and in Europe, the feverish dreams of exploration stir the hearts of many. Ambitious minds look at the icy, endless waters of the Arctic and wonder, is there a way through? They speak of the Northwest Passage, a shortcut that will connect the Atlantic and the Pacific, unlocking new trade routes and riches that could change the course of history. You, however, know better. You know this is no mere passage. This is the unforgiving expanse of the Arctic, a world where the land seems to push back against anyone who dares to conquer it. Yet the Europeans have decided that it is theirs to find, to tame, to conquer. And so they set sail, their ships braving the frozen waters in search of that elusive route, their minds filled with ambition. As you drift further into the story, you might sense their excitement, the fresh air of adventure, as the explorers prepare their ships, their compasses, and their maps. They are setting forth to conquer something unknown, unaware of the deep, cold grip of the Arctic that waits for them. But as they set sail, with their eyes locked on the horizon, there's something they fail to see. The land doesn't bend to their will. The vast ice floes, the jagged mountains of snow, the unyielding cold, they are all waiting patiently for the explorers to face the harsh truth. The Arctic isn't a passage to be conquered. It's a force of nature, indifferent to human ambition, a vast wilderness that has been home to its indigenous people for thousands of years. In the quiet, frozen landscapes, the Inuit have already mastered the art of survival. They have lived here for centuries, thriving in conditions that would break any lesser soul. For them, the Arctic is not a mystery to be solved, but a home to be respected. The explorers, however, know nothing of this world. They've heard the legends, the whispered promises of gold and trade, but they have no understanding of the true cost of navigating the icy seas. As the ships cut through the ice, the explorers can barely keep their spirits high. The cold begins to creep into their bones, their supplies dwindle, and the seas become more treacherous. Their once optimistic chatter gives way to silent stares and anxious whispers. The fog of the Arctic is thick, and each day brings a new challenge. Yet, despite the hardships, they press on, fueled by the hope that the passage will be just ahead if only they can survive long enough to find it. Meanwhile, from a distance, the Inuit watch. They've seen this before. Foreign ships, unfamiliar faces, men from faraway lands who think they can conquer the land, the ice, and the sky. But the Inuit know better. They understand the Arctic's rhythm. They know when the seals come, when the winds shift, and when the ice is ready to break. They have no need for the explorer's maps or compasses. The land speaks to them in ways the Europeans will never understand. And so they watch from the edge of the ice, their eyes steady and unwavering. They are calm in the face of this foreign presence, unperturbed by the explorer's struggle. The Inuit have lived with the land for so long, they have become a part of it, woven into the very fabric of the frozen earth. To them, the cold is not an adversary, but a companion, a reminder that life here is fragile, yet resilient. As the explorers continue their journey, the Inuit remain in the background, silent and wise. They know that no matter how many ships sail through the icy waters, no matter how many maps are drawn, this land will never truly be theirs to claim. The Arctic doesn't belong to anyone, it simply is. Now picture yourself in the midst of those explorers on board one of their ships. The icy sea stretches endlessly before you, a vast ocean of white, where each wave crashes with a cold, biting force. The explorers push forward their eyes, fixed on a map that promises riches, prestige, and the glory of discovery. Their mission is clear. Find the Northwest Passage and claim it for their respective countries, for Britain, for France, for Russia. Whichever nation can stake a claim here will become the gatekeeper of the world's trade. But here's where the irony lies, dear listener. The Europeans, so confident in their mission, seem to have forgotten the land they are crossing. The Arctic isn't simply a stretch of water or a map to be navigated. It's a place of extremes, of harsh conditions that test even the strongest of wills. They are not the first to set foot in these frozen lands, nor are they the first to sail these waters. Long before they arrived, the Inuit had made this place their home, adapting to the rhythm of the land, the freezing nights, and the endless days of snow. You may smile, if only a little, because the explorers in their enthusiasm will soon realize that the Arctic is not something to be tamed or conquered with mere ambition. The land does not care for their maps, nor does it bend to the pressure of their goals. It's a wild, unforgiving landscape that waits patiently for those who dare to enter. The explorers, driven by visions of glory and riches, will soon learn that the Arctic does not offer such rewards freely. It's a place of endurance, not conquest. As you stand on the ship wrapped in layers of cold weather gear, the air bites at your skin. The crew works tirelessly adjusting the sails and navigating the ice-choked waters, their faces pale and eyes weary. The cold is relentless, seeping into every crack of the ship, every bone in your body. The journey, which began with excitement and optimism, now feels like a long drawn-out struggle. Every day brings new obstacles, more ice, more freezing winds, and the overwhelming silence of a world that feels so distant from everything you once knew. The Arctic, once just a legend, has now become a true test of your limits. The rich promises that drove you forward seem less certain with each passing day. You may have set out in search of a shortcut to wealth and fame, but now the only thing you're certain of is the cold, the ice, and the long days of struggle ahead. And as you glance over the ship's edge, through the thick fog and swirling snow, you begin to wonder, what are we really searching for out here? What do we truly expect to find? The dream of the Northwest Passage, the idea of a trade route that connects the Atlantic to the Pacific, begins to feel less like a possibility and more like an illusion. It's a dream, based on maps and theories, but here in the heart of the Arctic, there is no room for such human constructs. The land is simply what it is, wild, vast, and untamed. Meanwhile, back on the shore, the Inuit continue their quiet existence. They don't need the explorer's maps, their compasses, or their dreams of trade. They know this land intimately, having lived in harmony with it for generations. For the Inuit, survival is not about conquering the land, it's about living with it, understanding its rhythms, and respecting its power. They've adapted to the harsh winters, the endless nights, and the biting winds. The explorers, despite their best efforts, are simply visitors in a land that has already been claimed long before they arrived. And so, as you continue your journey lost in the frozen wilderness, a thought begins to form, a small, quiet realization. Perhaps the Arctic wasn't meant to be found at all. Perhaps it was always meant to remain a place of mystery, not to be conquered, but simply to be respected. The dream of the Northwest Passage, now just a shadow in the distance, may never be reached. And the Arctic, in all its cold, unforgiving beauty, will continue to wait for those who come after, untouched and untamable. From a distance, you see it now, strange ships, their wooden hulls cutting through the icy waters. The Inuit, who have lived on these shores for centuries, notice them. They have seen boats before, but never like this. These are large, strange vessels with masts that reach up to the sky, flags flying proudly in the cold winds. The Inuit, accustomed to the stillness of their land, don't rush to greet them. Instead, they stand back, their eyes sharp and calculating as they observe these new arrivals. You, as an Inuit, are no stranger to the harsh winds, the long winters, or the endless snow. Your world is quiet, rhythmic, and predictable. You have no need to chase after these newcomers. You've seen many strangers in your time: fur traders, whalers, explorers, but the land remains the same. The ice does not change for them, and neither does the rhythm of your daily life. The explorers, on the other hand, can't help but wonder, who are these people who seem to live so effortlessly in this harsh world? What knowledge do they have that we do not? The Inuit are calm, unaffected by the ships that sit on the horizon, their lives as quiet as the winter night. The Europeans, so eager to conquer, don't realize they are in a place where conquest has no meaning. Here, in the land of endless winter, survival is the only victory worth pursuing. The explorers stand on their ships, gazing across the icy expanse, their breath visible in the cold air. They can feel the weight of their ambition pushing them forward, their eyes fixed on the shore, where the Inuit stand as silent sentinels. There is a strange tension in the air, a sense of being watched, of being out of place. The explorers are used to the world bending to their will, to the power of technology and progress. But here in the Arctic, they are but visitors in a land that does not need them. For the Inuit, these ships are nothing more than another passing curiosity, an event in a world that is steady and unchanging. Their eyes track the ships, not with fear or anticipation, but with the calm acceptance of those who have seen the world around them and know it for what it is. The explorers, so far from home, are lost in the vastness of the land, as much strangers to it as to the people who live here. The Inuit do not rush to greet them. Why would they? They have no need for the explorer's maps or promises of wealth. The land does not care about trade routes, about opening the passage to new worlds. The Inuit know this place. They know the ice, the snow, the winds, the rhythms of the earth. The ice does not change for anyone, not even for the Europeans with their towering ships and their feverish dreams. You, as an Inuit, remain steady, unhurried. Your life is simple, bound to the land, to the animals, to the cold, unrelenting seasons. There is no room for conquest here, no room for ambition beyond survival. And so you continue moving as you always do, your steps light in the snow, unaffected by the ships on the horizon. The world around you remains as it always has been: endless winter, endless cold, and the silent pull of the land that has nurtured your people for centuries. The explorers on their ships feel something unfamiliar. It's not just the cold, it's not just the isolation. It's a deeper sense that here in this land, they do not belong. They are far from home, surrounded by a world that refuses to yield to their will. And yet they press on, certain that they can find a way through that. They can push back the forces of nature with the strength of their determination. But the Inuit know better. The land does not need to be conquered. It has already been lived with, adapted to, and respected for generations. There is no triumph in claiming this place. It is simply a place to survive, to exist alongside, not to dominate. The Inuit have no need for glory or recognition. Their victory is in their quiet resilience, in the knowledge that the Arctic will remain as it always has been, untouched by the ambitions of those who think they can conquer it. The explorers may have maps, but the Inuit have something more valuable: time. They have lived with the Arctic's pulse, its subtle shifts, its frozen mysteries for centuries. They understand its secrets. They know that the land will not bend to them, no matter how many ships they send, no matter how many sails they unfurl. And as the explorers continue their futile march, chasing after a dream of discovery, the Inuit remain steady, their lives as unshaken as the ice beneath their feet. The ships, the explorers, the maps, they are fleeting here one moment and gone the next. But the Arctic, in all its harsh, silent beauty, will remain forever. And it is here, in this land of endless winter, that survival is the only true victory. For the Inuit, there is no need for conquest. There is only the quiet strength of living with the land and the knowing that they have already mastered it long before the explorers ever set sail. And here's where the gentle irony of it all comes into play. The explorers, laden with their maps, their compasses, and their lofty ideals of discovery, are no match for the land that surrounds them. The Inuit, who have lived on this land for generations, are unmoved by the arrival of these strangers. The ice may shift beneath their feet, but it does not bend to their will. While the explorers labor against the cold, struggling to navigate this frozen world, the Inuit remain in harmony with it. There's no rush, no hurry to prove anything. You, as the listener, might find yourself chuckling softly at the thought of it all. These explorers, determined to conquer, to tame, to chart the unknown, have no idea of the quiet strength that surrounds them. They are but visitors here, with no real understanding of the harshness they are up against. In the distance, the Inuit watch, silent, calm, and detached. For them, this land is not something to conquer. It is something to respect. And so as you drift deeper into this quiet story, you may find yourself smiling gently. The explorers, so sure of their mission, are about to encounter the coldest of realities. The Arctic does not bow to ambition. It bows only to those who have learned to live with it. And the Inuit, in their quiet wisdom, have known this for centuries. As the explorers push forward, their faces frozen, their hands stiff from the relentless cold, they start to realize that their well-laid plans crafted in warm rooms far from the ice and snow, are no match for the unyielding power of the Arctic. Their maps full of promise become useless as they drift deeper into unfamiliar territory. Every step feels harder, the cold more biting, the wind more insistent. The land, vast and silent, refuses to yield to their determination. It is as though the Arctic itself is holding its breath, watching these strangers falter, their strength and ambition slowly waning. The Inuit, however, remain unmoved. They move with ease, their steps sure, and practice their bodies attuned to the rhythms of the land. They know the signs of the weather, the way the ice cracks and shifts, the patterns of the snow that tell them when a storm is coming. They don't need to rush, for they are part of the land, not separate from it. In this frozen world, survival is not a matter of force. It is a matter of knowing when to wait, when to listen, and when to move with the land. You might imagine, as you drift into this tale, the contrast between the explorers burdened by their haste and ambition, and the Inuit who know that there is no need for urgency. For the Inuit, this land has never been something to conquer. It has always been something to coexist with. Their survival doesn't depend on their ability to fight the land. It depends on their ability to understand it, to live in harmony with the harshness of winter, and to respect its power. And as the explorers struggle, they start to see what the Inuit have known all along. The Arctic does not care about ambition or glory. It is indifferent to the explorers' dreams of conquest. It will not bend to their wills, no matter how hard they try. In the end, it will be the Inuit, with their quiet wisdom and deep understanding of the land, who will endure. The explorers, driven by lofty ideals and grand aspirations, will leave having learned a lesson they could not have anticipated. Some places are not meant to be conquered, but simply lived with. As you relax into the rhythm of the story, you may find yourself reflecting on this truth. The explorers sought to change the land, to tame it with their maps and their ships. But in the end, it is the Inuit, with their timeless knowledge, who have already mastered the art of survival in the coldest of worlds. The coldest reality of all, perhaps, is that true strength lies not in domination, but in the quiet ability to coexist, to move with the land rather than against it. And so, with each passing day, the explorers begin to understand. The ice is not theirs to conquer. The Arctic does not care for their goals. The Inuit, with their serene acceptance, continue their lives as they always have, silent, steadfast, and in perfect harmony with the land they call home. As the days shorten and the cold sets in, you can feel the land shifting around you. The Arctic, so inviting in its silence during the summer, now becomes a merciless force. The explorers, once confident in their pursuit of the Northwest Passage, suddenly find themselves at the mercy of an environment they never truly understood. The temperature drops swiftly, and with it their hopes of a quick journey. The long Arctic nights stretch on, and the sun, which barely rises above the horizon, offers little warmth. The once bright future of glory and riches now feels distant, cold, and unreachable. You stand among them, watching the first signs of true winter settle, and the air grows heavier. The winds howl with an ancient power, and the ice begins to close in. The explorers, who thought they could simply navigate their way through, now realize they are trapped. The sea has frozen over, and their supplies are no longer as reliable as they once seemed. They have underestimated the severity of the Arctic winter, and now the cold is a constant companion biting at their faces, their hands, and their hearts. The explorers' optimism begins to fade as the biting cold seeps deeper into their bones. The initial excitement of discovery, the thrill of adventure, now seems like a distant memory. Each day feels heavier than the last as they struggle to keep their ships moving through the ice that has now sealed their path. The once pristine waters are now an impenetrable wall of frozen sea, trapping them in a world of white where every direction seems the same. The supplies they had carefully stockpiled are no longer enough. The dried meats, the preserved fruits, and the hardtack, once reliable sustenance, have turned to brittle, tasteless mockeries of their former selves. The cold has made them difficult to eat, and the men begin to feel the gnawing hunger that comes with a dwindling food supply. Water freezes in the containers, and the once efficient hunting parties return empty-handed, the harsh conditions making it nearly impossible to find game. Night after night, the explorers huddle together in their ships, the cold creeping in through every crack in the wood. They light their lanterns, but the warmth is fleeting, unable to chase away the cold that has settled deep into their skin. The Arctic, silent and unyielding, continues its slow, eternal march towards winter's peak. The sky, which once promised adventure and possibility, is now a dim, unforgiving expanse. You watch from the sidelines, detached from the chaos and frustration of the explorers. As an Inuit, you are no stranger to the harsh conditions. The wind, the cold, the endless snow, they are all a part of your world. While the explorers are wrapped in layers of thick clothing struggling against nature, you move with ease, your steps light on the snow, your breath steady in the frozen air. To you, this is no disaster. It's simply another season, another part of life. You notice how the explorers begin to lose their resolve, their faces drawn and pale. The bravado they had when they first arrived has been replaced by a quiet desperation. Their voices, once full of confidence, now carry the edge of fear. They talk of turning back, but the ice has already locked them in. There is no easy escape, no simple solution. Their maps, their compasses, and their plans, none of it has helped them understand the true nature of the land they've entered. As you continue to watch, a small part of you feels pity for them. They thought they could tame this land, bend it to their will, but they have only discovered its power. The Arctic is not a place to be dominated, not a place where men can impose their desires. It is a place to endure, to respect, and to survive. You know this better than anyone. You've survived here your entire life, moving with the rhythm of the seasons, knowing when to hunt, when to build, and when to rest. The cold is not your enemy. It is a constant companion. The land does not care about ambition. It only cares for those who learn to live with it. And as the explorers continue their struggle, you are reminded of the true cost of their ambition. The Arctic does not yield to force. It does not bend to the whims of men. It simply is. The explorers, so sure of their mission, are now grappling with the bitter reality of the Arctic. Their ships, once proud and strong, are now encased in thick layers of ice. Supplies that seemed abundant when they first set sail are now dwindling. The food is running low, and their provisions freeze faster than they can eat. In the cold, nothing lasts. Even the provisions meant to sustain them through the journey, canned foods, dried meats, and salted fish, are now frozen solid, difficult to eat and harder still to digest. The cold that surrounds them is unyielding, and the warmth they had once taken for granted is now a distant memory. You, as a silent observer, might find a bit of dry humor in their predicament. These explorers, who set out so confidently, now struggle with tasks as simple as staying warm. They fight against the snow, the ice, and the wind, desperately trying to keep their ships from becoming frozen tombs. Every step they take is a battle against the cold. Their dreams of discovery seem foolish now in the face of an environment that has no place for ambition. They're learning, but it's too late. They are too far in to turn back, yet too ill-prepared to go forward. You can almost hear their frustration in the air, thick with the sound of wind scraping across frozen wood. The men, once full of bravado, now shuffle around their encased ships, their breath visible in the icy air, their faces drawn and pale. They huddle close to what little warmth remains, the glow from their lamps, faint against the vast, unforgiving cold. Their bodies grow weaker with each passing day. The simple acts of eating, moving, and even thinking becoming harder and harder. The cold has crept into their bones, and no matter how many layers they pile on it, still gnaws at them relentlessly. Their once pristine maps, filled with promises of a shortcut to the riches of the East, now seem absurd. They had believed they could find a way through, that they could conquer the unknown. But now, the Arctic has become a riddle they cannot solve. The ice blocks their path at every turn, and the land that they once imagined as an obstacle to be overcome has become an insurmountable force. With each failed attempt to push further, the dream of the Northwest Passage fades, replaced by the harsh reality of survival. You, watching from a distance as the explorers continue their futile attempts, might feel a strange sense of detachment. They are struggling with something that you've long understood, a land that offers no forgiveness to those who seek to conquer it. The Inuit have lived here for generations, moving through the ice and snow as if they were part of it, not fighting against it. The explorers, in contrast, are strangers in this land, struggling to adapt to something they never truly understood. In the distance, you see the Inuit moving, as they always have, unaffected by the cold that so clearly has the Europeans in its grip. They know the land, know how to read the ice and the wind. Where the explorers are defeated, the Inuit continue their daily routines. They hunt, they gather, they build shelters. For them, the cold is a challenge to meet, not an enemy to fight. They know what the explorers are learning the hard way in the Arctic survival is not about dominance or control. It is about understanding and respect. As the explorers struggle with the basics, keeping warm, finding food, staying alive, the Inuit, with their quiet wisdom, carry on as though nothing has changed. Their lives are simple, unhurried, their steps measured and steady. For the Inuit, there is no rush, no frantic push to succeed. They have lived with the land for generations and know that success here is not measured in conquest, but in harmony with the world around them. And as the explorers sit shivering in their ships, questioning every decision they made, they can only look on in silent frustration. The cold which they thought they could outlast has become their master. They cannot push it away. They cannot escape it. And they are left with the haunting truth that their ambition, however noble or grand, has no place in a world that cares nothing for human desires. The Arctic doesn't bend to willpower. It bends only to those who have learned how to move with it. So, as you settle deeper into the story, the irony becomes clear. The explorers, so sure of their mission, have discovered too late that the Arctic cannot be conquered. It can only be survived. And the Inuit, in their quiet wisdom, have known this for centuries. In contrast, the Inuit move through this harsh winter as if it were nothing more than another day in their lives. While the Europeans struggle with frozen food and cold, the Inuit are already adapting to the shifting ice and snow. They know how to read the land. The cold doesn't surprise them. It simply is. The Inuit have lived with it for centuries, not as something to fight against, but as something to work with. You watch them with quiet admiration as they prepare for the coming winter, their movements fluid and sure. They don't hurry, but they don't waste time either. They have already set up their shelters carefully crafted from snow and ice, each igloo standing tall against the biting wind. The Inuit know how to trap the heat inside, how to seal off the cold. There's no panic, no flurry of activity, just steady hands, steady minds, and steady hearts. They hunt with skill, navigating the frozen landscapes with ease. The seals, the whales, and the caribou are a part of this land They know where to find them, when to hunt, and how to use every part of the animal. They aren't worried about the cold, they embrace it. For them, the Arctic isn't a challenge to overcome, it's a way of life. As you settle into this story, a quiet realization dawns on you. The Inuit have mastered the Arctic not because they are stronger or braver than the explorers, but because they know it better. Their strength lies in their understanding, their patience, and their ability to live in harmony with this land. The explorers, on the other hand, have tried to force their will upon it, and now they are paying the price. You might chuckle softly as you think about the explorers struggling with the simplest of tasks. They've got maps and compasses, yet they're utterly lost in a world that doesn't follow human logic. They are tangled in their own ambition, while the Inuit move through this same world with a quiet confidence that comes from living with the land, not against it. The explorers may have thought that their maps and their ships would be enough to conquer the Arctic, but they are learning slowly and painfully that survival here is not about conquest. It's about coexistence. The Inuit, with their deep knowledge and unwavering calm, have already won the battle that the explorers are just beginning to fight. And perhaps in the end, it's not a battle at all. It's a quiet lesson in resilience and respect for the land, and in the humbling realization that some places cannot be conquered, only endured. As you reflect on this, the realization settles in deeper. The explorer's struggle is not just with the elements, but with their own perceptions of the world. They arrived with maps and compasses, with plans and ambitions, thinking that these would guide them through the Arctic's harshness. But here, in the land of ice and snow, such things are useless. The land does not follow human logic or the dictates of their grand designs. Instead, it moves according to its own rules, unpredictable, unyielding, and indifferent to the explorer's dreams of glory. In contrast, the Inuit have never needed maps or compasses. They don't measure the world by lines drawn on paper or by the ticking of a clock. They understand the Arctic in a way the explorers never will not through books or theories, but through experience, through the slow accumulation of wisdom passed down from one generation to the next. The Inuit don't need to conquer the land because they already understand it. They've adapted to its rhythms, learned its moods, and know how to survive within it. For them, the Arctic is not something to be fought. It is simply a part of life. As the explorers wrestle with the reality of their situation, the Inuit glide effortlessly through the same conditions. The Inuit move across the ice, hunting and gathering with calm precision, as if the cold and the winds were nothing more than a backdrop to their lives. They have no need to rush, no need to prove anything. Their survival isn't about conquering or winning. It's about understanding, respecting, and moving in tune with the land. The explorers, meanwhile, continue their desperate struggle, each failure only deepening their frustration. Their ambition, their sense of superiority, is slowly being stripped away, leaving them raw and vulnerable in a world that offers no mercy. You might smile gently, knowing the explorers are learning the most important lesson of all. Some things are not meant to be conquered. The Arctic does not bow to ambition or strength. It doesn't care for titles or glory. It simply exists indifferent to the passing of time and the aspirations of men. The Inuit, with their quiet confidence, have learned this truth long ago. They don't try to fight the land, they live with it in harmony. Their survival isn't measured in grand achievements, but in their ability to endure, to adapt, and to respect the world around them. And so, as the explorers continue to battle the relentless cold, they begin to understand the profound irony of it all. Their maps and compasses, their knowledge of the world, mean nothing here. They are but visitors in a land that has no need for them. The Inuit, on the other hand, have already won, though there is no victory in the way the explorers understand it. It is not a conquest, but a quiet resilience, a way of life that has endured for centuries. The explorers may have come seeking glory, but the Inuit, with their patience and wisdom, have shown them that the true strength lies in simply surviving, in learning to live with the land rather than against it. As you drift further into the story, perhaps you begin to understand this quiet wisdom yourself. The Arctic, in its brutal, breathtaking beauty, is a place of endurance, not domination. It is a world that does not care for human ambition, but instead rewards those who respect its power. The Inuit have mastered this truth, while the explorers, lost in their own dreams, are only just beginning to understand. The explorers, ragged and worn from their struggles, finally come face to face with the Inuit. It is a moment that had been inevitable, though they did not know it at the time. After days of battling the cold, their bodies aching, their spirits dwindling, they see something, or rather, someone appear through the swirling snow. At first, it's just a silhouette, barely visible against the blinding white. But soon it becomes clear. Figures moving with purpose, silently, in perfect harmony with the land. The explorers, desperate for help, are momentarily stunned. They had expected to find something different out here in the Arctic, perhaps a wild, untamed land, or even a vast, empty void. But they had not expected to find people. People who not only survived here, but thrived. The Inuit approach, seemingly unfazed by the treacherous environment, as if this world was theirs to command, not one to be fought. You, as an Inuit, watch them with calm eyes. You know what they're going through, their bewilderment, their desperation. You've seen this before. They're lost, both physically and in their minds. They've come into your world expecting to conquer it. But now they are at its mercy. Their ship is frozen. Their supplies are gone. And their hopes of discovery have crumbled beneath the weight of an environment they cannot control. The explorers stand there, eyes wide, watching as the Inuit move with ease through the snow, their steps fluid and purposeful. The contrast between the two groups couldn't be starker. The Inuit, undeterred by the harsh wind and blinding snow, walk without hesitation, their faces set in calm determination. They are a part of this land, not strangers to it, and their movements reflect a lifetime of adaptation. The explorers, on the other hand, are weary, ragged, and on the brink of collapse. Their clothes are frozen stiff, their faces pale, their bodies exhausted from the long battle against the elements. You, as an Inuit, don't rush toward them. There is no need for haste. They are the ones who need help, not you. You observe them quietly, assessing their situation, sensing their panic, their desperation. They have no understanding of the land they are on, and it is clear to you that they are out of their depth. You know this place, the snow, the ice, the cold better than they ever will. You've lived with it for generations, your people thriving in a world where survival is earned, not given. The explorers, finally realizing they are not alone, begin to approach with a mixture of caution and hope. They speak in hurried voices, their words laced with anxiety, asking for help, anything to escape the relentless cold that is closing in around them. You listen, but you don't immediately answer. They are not entitled to your assistance. They are strangers in a land that has no obligation to be kind. But still, you offer a quiet response, nodding as you guide them with gestures to follow you. You will help them, but it will be on your terms in your time. As you lead them through the snow, you notice their hesitation. They are unsure of how to move, how to navigate this unfamiliar terrain. Their eyes dart nervously around their breaths, shallow, as if every step they take might lead to disaster. They cling to their maps and compasses as though these tools, so useful in their world, could somehow save them here. But you know better. The Arctic does not follow the rules of their maps. The land doesn't care for their instruments or their plans. Here, survival is not about technology. It's about understanding the land and moving with it. You don't say much as you lead them. There's no need for words. You show them how to build a shelter from the snow, how to dig into the frozen earth and pack it tightly to create a safe haven against the wind. The explorers watch, their eyes wide in awe, as you work with fluid precision, your hands sure and steady. They struggle to imitate your movements, their fingers numb and stiff from the cold. You notice how their frustration begins to mount as their attempts fail. They've never had to live with the land in this way, and they can't seem to grasp the subtle art of survival in such an unforgiving world. There's a quiet irony in watching them. These explorers, with their grand ambitions and their belief that they could conquer the Arctic, are humbled by something they couldn't have anticipated: the simple, unyielding force of nature. The Inuit, with their deep connection to the land, move with ease and grace. The explorers, despite all their technology and knowledge, struggle against it. You can't help but feel a tinge of sympathy for them. They're not bad people. They are simply out of their element. They've come here expecting to dominate, to chart unknown territory, and now they are learning a hard truth. The Arctic is not a place to be conquered. It is a place to be understood, respected, and most of all, survived. You, as an Inuit, have known this all your life. It's not about fighting the land. It's about living with it, moving with it, and knowing when to be still. As you continue to guide them, you feel their exhaustion and desperation. They ask more questions, but their voices are quieter now, their tone tinged with a sense of defeat. You answer when you can, but mostly you lead them in silence. The Arctic, you know, has a way of teaching lessons, and sometimes those lessons come with a price. When you finally reach a sheltered area, you gesture for them to rest. The explorers huddle together, their eyes filled with a mixture of relief and bewilderment. You can see the realization settling in. They are no longer in control. They've crossed into a world that will not yield to their ambitions. It will take more than maps and compasses to survive here. It will take understanding. It will take patience. And it will take the willingness to accept that some places, no matter how vast, how mysterious, or how tempting, cannot be conquered. They can only be endured. As you watch them from a distance, you feel a quiet satisfaction. The land has spoken, and they have heard it, though they may not yet fully understand its message. They are guests here, and like all guests, they must learn the ways of the land, just as you have. It will take time, but in the end they may come to see what you have always known, that survival is not about domination, but about respect. And for that, the Arctic will always provide if you know how to listen. You and your people approach the explorers cautiously. There's no rush, no urgency. The land will wait. You, as an Inuit, have learned to move with the land, not against it. And this moment is no different. Though you do not immediately offer them warmth or shelter, you do offer something far more valuable: knowledge. You have lived here for generations, and you know how to survive. The explorers, despite their high hopes and grand ambitions, are learning this the hard way. The first thing you share with them is how to build shelter from the snow, how to pack it tightly enough to create a barrier against the wind, how to make igloos that will hold in the warmth of their bodies even in the coldest nights. You offer them food, though you don't give away much, for the land does not provide in abundance. The food you give is scarce precious seals fish, and the sparse vegetation that grows in the short Arctic summer. You notice how the explorers hesitate. They are used to consuming food in their own way, cooked, preserved, prepared. But here, in the harsh, cold world of the Arctic, food is eaten as it is found, simple and direct. You offer them raw meat, and though they seem unsure at first, hunger soon overcomes their hesitation. They take it. but you see the look in their eyes, wondering, questioning. In this place, food is sustenance, not luxury. They are learning that survival here is not a matter of preference, but of necessity. As the explorers reluctantly begin to eat, you observe them with a quiet, almost detached curiosity. They chew slowly, their faces grimacing at the unfamiliar texture and taste. But hunger, you know, is a powerful teacher. Their hesitation fades with each bite, and soon they are eating more eagerly, their initial shock giving way to the raw urgency of survival. Still, they are cautious, as if uncertain whether this is truly food or something else entirely, a new challenge in a land that continues to test them at every turn. You don't rush them, though. You understand. In your world, there is no time for reluctance or pride when it comes to survival. Food is food, no matter how it comes. You've grown up eating raw meat, seal blubber, and fish straight from the ice. It's the way things have always been. Here in the Arctic, survival is not about luxury or preference. It's about practicality and respect for what the land offers. As the explorers finish eating, some of them exchange uncertain glances. They are clearly struggling to reconcile this raw, unprocessed sustenance with the comforts they once took for granted. One of them coughs slightly, but there's a flicker of realization in his eyes. This is the way of life here. They were not brought to this place to conquer it, but to learn to live within it. It's a hard lesson, one they are beginning to grasp, but with each passing moment, you can sense their comprehension growing. You notice how they shiver, and despite their thick layers of clothing, they still can't escape the cold. They are used to warmth comforts like heated homes, well-stocked pantries, and wool blankets. Here, warmth isn't something that can be summoned on demand. It's something you must build carefully and patiently. So, you show them how to gather snow, how to pack it tightly into blocks that will form the walls of their shelter. You teach them the delicate balance of building an igloo, how to create an airtight structure that will hold in the warmth from their bodies. At first, they struggle with the technique, their hands awkward and unskilled in the art of shaping snow into sturdy walls. But with your guidance, they slowly begin to understand the process. You help them build the entrance low to the ground so the cold air cannot sweep in, and you show them how to make small vents to allow the warmth to escape without suffocating them. The igloo, when completed, stands firm and solid, its shape simple but effective. It's a quiet satisfaction to see them grasping these lessons, though you know it's only the beginning. You don't expect them to understand everything at once, and you certainly don't expect them to master this way of life in just a few days. But in the simplicity of these moments, teaching them how to endure, how to survive, in this land, you see a change. They are starting to learn that survival in the Arctic is not about forcing their will upon the land. It's about listening to it, understanding its pace, and moving in tune with its rhythms. As night falls and the temperature drops even further, you offer them the warmth of the shelter, but not without a measure of distance. You've helped them, but you remain cautious. They are guests in this world, and like all guests, they must earn their place. The explorers huddle inside the igloo, their faces more relaxed now, their hunger sated, their bodies shielded from the wind. But you remain outside for a while, standing in the cold, watching the snow fall gently in the darkness. In the stillness of the night, you realize something. The land is not as cruel as it seems, but it demands respect. The explorers, though, they are still strangers here, are beginning to understand that. They may not have the luxury of knowledge or experience that you do, but they are learning. Slowly and with great effort, they are starting to see that survival in the Arctic is not about forcing one's way, but about humility, about understanding that here you are not the master. You are a guest, and survival is a quiet negotiation between you and the land itself. You turn away from the igloo, your breath forming small clouds in the cold night air, and feel a sense of calm. They are still learning, but they are beginning to grasp the most important lesson of all, that in the Arctic survival is not a matter of conquering, it is a matter of living with. As the explorers consume what you offer, you observe them with a quiet curiosity. They are still adjusting, still grappling with the reality of their situation. They seem fascinated by your calm, your ease with the land. They ask questions, though not many questions that reveal their ignorance about the true nature of the Arctic. They ask how you can live in such cold, how you manage to find food in a land where nothing seems to grow. But you, as an Inuit, know the answer to this without needing to speak. It's not about finding something to conquer. It's about knowing how to move with the land, how to respect it, how to live in harmony with its rhythms. The explorers, in contrast, seem to view the land as something to control, something to bend to their will. They want to know the quickest way to navigate it, the easiest path to get through it, to push past the ice, to find a shortcut to glory. To them, the land is an obstacle to be overcome, not a partner to be respected. You can see it in the way they treat their equipment, the way they push forward without regard for the natural forces around them. They are driven by a need to conquer, a need to make this land yield to their desires. You, however, view this differently. For you, the land is not something to dominate, it is something to understand. The snow is not something to fight against. It is simply a part of the world, a force to be worked with. The explorers have much to learn, and though you don't say it aloud, you can see that they are beginning to realize this for themselves. The Arctic is not a place for quick solutions or grand ambitions. It is a place for patience, for respect, for learning the ways of the land. As the explorers ask more questions, their voices filled with uncertainty, you listen quietly, knowing that their inquiries are a sign of their growing awareness. They are beginning to understand that the Arctic is not a place that can be mastered with mere determination. They ask how you endure the long, bitter nights, how you know where to hunt, how you find food when it seems as though nothing grows here. They speak in awe, as though they are slowly grasping something they hadn't considered before, a deeper truth about this land, one that cannot be captured by maps or compasses. You watch them silently, amused by their wonder. They seem almost childlike in their curiosity, as though they've discovered something profound, yet so simple and so ancient. In their minds, they are still searching for answers, still trying to find a way to bend the land to their will. But you know that true survival here doesn't come from trying to control the land. It comes from understanding it, living with it, becoming a part of it. The snow, for instance, is not something to battle. It's something to work with. The explorers still clinging to the belief that they can push forward no matter the conditions are growing frustrated when the snow slows their progress, when their boots sink too deep, or when their sleds become stuck in the drifts. They see it as an obstacle, as something that must be conquered. But to you, the Inuit, the snow is simply a part of the world. It's something to navigate, to live with. You've learned how to read it, how to follow its patterns, how to make it work for you, not against you. And as you watch the explorers struggle, you can't help but feel a sense of quiet amusement. They try to impose their will on the land, using their tools and their force, thinking that this will be enough to bend nature to their desires. But nature here does not bend to anyone. It simply is. The Arctic is not a place that will give in to human ambition. It's a place to live with, not to fight against. You know that they are beginning to realize this, though they haven't fully grasped it yet. The fatigue in their faces, the way they look at each other with a mix of frustration and resignation tells you that they are starting to understand. They are learning that survival here isn't about charging through the snow with determination and maps. It's about learning patience, about respecting the land's rhythms, about accepting that the Arctic will not yield to their desires. It will only yield to those who know how to work with it. You don't say these things out loud. There's no need. The land speaks for itself. The explorers in their quiet moments, when they rest in the shelters you've helped them build, when they sit beside the warmth of the small fire you've started for them, begin to see the truth. They are guests here, not conquerors. They are in a land that doesn't need them, and they must learn to live within it, not impose their will upon it. They still cling to their hopes, their dreams of glory, but the weight of the Arctic's silence and power begins to sink in. They've learned a hard lesson already, here in the land of ice and snow. Ambition is not enough. In the end, it's about respect, patience, and the quiet understanding that the land will not be conquered. It will be lived with, worked with, and in time, respected for the strength it demands. And as you stand there watching them, come to terms with this reality. You know this is the first step in their journey, a journey that will take them not toward conquest, but toward coexistence. The explorers, though weakened by the cold and their struggles, refuse to stop. Despite the ice, the snow, and the unbearable winds, they push on. The dream of discovering the Northwest Passage still burns in their hearts, though it flickers now, faint and uncertain. They continue to chart their course, their eyes fixed on the horizon, searching for something, anything that will prove their journey has been worth the suffering. You, as an Inuit, watch them quietly. You understand their drive, their need for discovery, their hunger for glory. But you also know something they don't. The land here does not care about their dreams. It will not bend to their will, and it will not make things easier for them. In the distance, you see their frustration mount with each passing day. The explorers are lost not just in the physical sense, but in a deeper way, they are lost in a world they can't control. The Arctic is unforgiving, and every step they take into it only reveals more of its true nature. As the explorers press forward, their bodies tired and their minds weary, you can see the gradual unraveling of their resolve. Their dreams of discovery, once so clear and bright, now seem distant, almost out of reach. They trudge through the snow, each step feeling heavier than the last, their once strong ambitions now weighed down by the relentless cold and isolation. Every corner they turn, every path they try to carve through the ice only leads them further into confusion. Their maps no longer seem to make sense, the lines and markings that once promised a route now mocked by the endless sea of white around them. The terrain, which they once believed they could conquer with sheer will, is proving itself to be far more complex, far more treacherous than they ever anticipated. You, as an Inuit, can see it in their eyes, the mounting frustration, the way they exchange uncertain glances, their voices growing quieter with each passing day. They are not just physically lost. They are lost in a way that only this land can make one feel. They are fighting a battle they cannot win, struggling against something they can never conquer. The Arctic doesn't care about their dreams, their ambitions, or their promises of glory. It simply exists as it always has, indifferent to the frantic efforts of those who dare to enter its domain. You know this land, every inch of it, the snow, the ice, the freezing winds that cut through everything with a sharpness only the truly unprepared can understand. To you, this is not a place of unknown challenges to overcome, but a part of life. You have learned to move with it, to read its signals, to follow its rhythms. The explorers, on the other hand, are blind to these signs. They cannot read the language of the land, and so they struggle. Every misstep, every failure to move forward brings them closer to the painful realization that the Arctic does not care for their plans. You watch as they stop more frequently. Now their movements slower, their frustration more apparent. They make camp, but their shelters are flimsy, not built for the kind of long, brutal winter they've found themselves in. The cold seeps in, despite their efforts. They gather their dwindling supplies, but their food is freezing too quickly to be eaten. The landscape offers them no comfort, no respite. And still, they push on as if they believe that their persistence will somehow break through the cold, break through the snow, and finally lead them to the treasure they seek. But you know, in the silence of the frozen world around you, that this land does not give way to persistence. It does not yield to force. It teaches a far harsher lesson. The only way forward is to learn how to exist alongside it, not to try and bend it to your will. The explorer's constant struggle is proof of their failure to understand this simple truth. As the days drag on, you see them becoming more desperate. They try to go further, to press on just one more day, but the Arctic shows no mercy. The cold grows stronger, the wind more biting. Even the sun seems to fade, lingering only on the horizon for a short while before dipping back into the long, relentless night. They have underestimated the power of this land, and now it is teaching them the hardest of lessons. The Arctic does not exist to serve them. It is not a treasure to be discovered. It is a world unto itself, one that must be respected, not conquered. You stand back, watching them with a quiet understanding. You know what they're going through. You know how it feels to struggle against the cold, to feel that sense of being utterly alone in a world that seems indifferent to your desires. But you also know that the struggle will never end unless they understand the truth that in the Arctic, the only way to survive is to give in, to yield to the land, to learn its ways. Until they realize this, their fight will continue. And as you turn away back into the stillness of your world, you wonder how long it will take them to understand what you already know. The Inuit, though not openly hostile, recognize the explorers as intruders. Your people have lived in this land for centuries, and the Arctic is your world. It is your home, your livelihood, your very existence. You understand its language, its rhythms, and its harsh demands. You know when to move, when to wait, and when to stay still. The explorers, on the other hand, are strangers here. They don't know the land like you do. They don't know its dangers or its secrets. As you watch them struggle, there's a quiet shift in the air. It's not something that's spoken. It doesn't need to be. The land itself knows when it's being tested when it's being pushed, and it responds in subtle ways. The Inuit know the importance of balance here. This land does not belong to anyone, yet it belongs to everyone who understands it. You watch the explorers encroach upon your territory, pushing further into areas that have been home to your people for generations. You don't attack them, you don't force them out, but you do ensure they don't overstep. You quietly protect your territory, moving in ways they don't notice, watching from the shadows, ensuring they don't take too much from the land or stay longer than necessary. As the explorers continue their journey, their footsteps slowly carving deeper into your world, the land responds, though subtly, it speaks with the weight of centuries. The snow shifts, the wind howls, the ice cracks in ways that are imperceptible to those who don't know how to listen. The explorers, consumed with their own struggle to survive, are blind to these small warnings. They push forward with their maps, their compasses, their desires for discovery. But the land itself resists shifting underfoot, offering them no easy passage. It is a quiet resistance, a resistance that is felt more than seen. You, as an Inuit, have learned to read these signs. The land tells you when it is at peace and when it is unsettled. You can feel the pulse of the earth beneath the snow, the way the wind shifts when danger is near, the way the ice creaks and groans as it adjusts to the seasons. You understand that the Arctic is not simply a place to survive. It is a living entity, a world with its own rhythms and forces. The explorers, though, with their foreign tools and plans, seem unaware of these subtle cues. They continue their quest, unaware that they are stepping further into a world that does not seek their approval. You observe their movements, always from a distance, always silent. The explorers are oblivious to the quiet way the land responds to them. They tread too heavily, too carelessly, and in doing so, they disturb the delicate balance that has existed here for generations. They are guests in a land that does not belong to anyone but the one who respects it, the one who understands its language. You don't feel anger toward them. They are simply ignorant, lost in their own ambitions. But you feel a deep, quiet responsibility. This land is yours to protect, not through violence or conflict, but through vigilance and subtle action. You make sure they don't overstay their welcome, making sure they don't take too much from the land that could upset its fragile balance. You are careful, though. You don't want to draw attention to yourself. You move like a shadow watching them, making sure they don't cross the invisible line that marks the edge of respect. The land will not accept them unless they learn in their own time how to move with it, not against it. When they attempt to hunt you, watch from a distance. They are unfamiliar with the animals here, with the way the seals and caribou move through the frozen landscape. They struggle to find food, their traps empty, their efforts fruitless. You see them exhausted and desperate, trying to understand the creatures of the land. But the animals are not their prey to take. They are part of this world, just as you are. The Arctic has no place for those who seek to dominate, only for those who seek to live in balance with it. You don't intervene directly, but you know the land will not yield to their desires. It will give yes, but only when it's respected. You've seen it before with others who have come seeking to conquer those who fail to understand the rhythms of this world are always the first to fall. The land has a way of showing them that it is not theirs to take. It does not punish. It does not retaliate. It simply exists. And in its quiet indifference, it makes clear that survival here is not about force. It's about respect. You watch as the explorers begin to falter, their faces marked by frustration and defeat. They are beginning to realize that the Arctic will not give them what they seek. Their journey, which once seemed so certain, now feels like a foolish pursuit. They are too far in to turn back, but too unprepared to go forward. They are trapped in a land that does not conform to their ambitions, and in their struggle, they begin to understand that they have overstepped. You do not wish them harm. You simply wish them to understand. The Arctic is not a place to conquer. It is a place to coexist with. And as you watch them struggle, you can only hope that in time they will learn to listen to the land, to move with it, not against it. It is a quiet lesson, one that comes not through force, but through endurance. The land will always win, because it has nothing to prove. It simply is. And so you continue to watch from the shadows, silent, patient, ensuring that the explorers don't take too much, that they don't disrupt the delicate balance that has existed here for so long. The land is patient, and you, as an Inuit, are patient too. You know that in time, the explorers will either learn the ways of the land or they will be lost to it as so many others before them have been. But for now, all you do is watch silently, ensuring that the Arctic remains as it always has been, a place of quiet strength, waiting for those who will learn to respect it. Though no words are exchanged, a tension begins to build. The explorers sense it too. They feel the coldness in the air shift the subtle pressure from the land itself. The land is vast, and it is unforgiving. But there is something more. It is watching them. The Inuit are not just inhabitants. They are guardians of this place, and the explorers are starting to realize that their presence is not welcome, not in the way they imagined. The Inuit move silently through the snow, their eyes sharp, their movements calm and deliberate. They are not confrontational, but they are protective. They know this land as their ancestors did, and they will ensure it remains as it always has been, untouched by outsiders who seek to take from it without understanding it. The explorers, though, they have not yet realized it are being watched. Every move they make is being observed not with anger or hostility, but with quiet vigilance. The Inuit are not actively pushing them out, but they are not allowing them to take more than what's necessary. The explorers, unaware of the silent eyes upon them, press on, but with each passing day, a subtle discomfort grows within them. They can feel it in the air, an invisible weight, a tension that seems to cling to the very snow beneath their feet. The land, so vast and indifferent, now feels strangely aware of their presence, as if it has taken notice of their intrusion. At first, the explorers brush it off as the exhaustion of their journey or the haunting effects of the cold. But deep down, they sense that something is amiss. The land is not yielding. It is not offering them the easy path they had hoped for. And they are beginning to realize that they are not alone here. You, as an Inuit, move among them with ease, your steps light on the snow. You are a shadow in the landscape, almost invisible but ever present. Your eyes follow them from a distance, taking in their every movement. They are clumsy in this world, uncertain, out of place. Their actions are rushed, hasty, driven by a desperation they don't fully understand. Their movements betray the deep uncertainty that has begun to settle in their hearts. The Arctic has a way of making even the bravest of men question their purpose. It is vast and unyielding, and those who seek to dominate it are often the first to fall. But you are not here to stop them, not directly. You are not their enemy, but neither are you their ally. You are simply here watching, ensuring that they do not take more than they are allowed. The land does not belong to anyone. It belongs to those who understand it, who live in harmony with it. You do not interfere with their attempts to survive, but you are not naive enough to let them disrupt the fragile balance that has existed for centuries. They may be guests in this world, but like all guests, they must respect the rules whether they realize it or not. As you watch the explorers, you see their frustration growing. Their supplies are running low, their spirits even lower. They search for food, but their efforts are in vain. The land does not give easily, and they have yet to learn the art of patience that the Inuit have honed over generations. Their attempts to hunt are clumsy, their traps ineffective. The animals of the Arctic are not easily fooled, and the explorers have no understanding of the subtle rhythms of the land. You notice how they look around their eyes, darting nervously, trying to find something, anything that will make their journey worthwhile. But you know better. The Arctic doesn't offer instant gratification. It doesn't care for urgency or ambition. It only offers survival to those who learn its ways, who move with its rhythms, not against it. The Inuit know this well. Your people have lived with the land, not tried to conquer it. You understand its silence, its power, and its refusal to bend to human will. The explorers, in their desperation, are learning this truth the hard way. You notice one of them, an older man, his face lined with exhaustion, standing on the edge of a snowbank, staring out into the endless white. His eyes seem to drift, lost in thought, and for a moment you see the faintest glimmer of realization. Perhaps he too feels it, that quiet weight in the air, the knowledge that they have crossed a line they did not fully understand. He turns to the others, but says nothing. The others too are beginning to feel the change. They are not alone in this land, and the land is watching them. There is no violence, no confrontation. The Inuit do not raise their voices, nor do they brandish weapons. They simply wait. Their presence, though unseen, is a constant, like the snow falling softly around the explorers. The explorers may not know it yet, but they are being guided by forces far older and wiser than their ambitions could ever understand. The Inuit are not trying to drive them away, but they are ensuring that their intrusion does not upset the balance of the land. They are silent protectors, watching from the shadows, moving with the land, and ensuring that the Arctic remains as it has always been. As the explorers press on, they continue to feel the subtle pressure building around them. Their progress slows, their energy wanes, and the land becomes less forgiving. But the Inuit, though they remain distant, are patient. They know the Arctic well. It will take time, but the explorers will come to understand. They will learn that the land cannot be forced, that it must be lived with, not conquered. And when that realization comes, it will not be loud or dramatic. It will be quiet, like the wind that whispers across the snow. And in that quiet, the explorers will finally understand the true nature of this land, the land that does not yield to human ambition, but instead shows those who respect it the path to survival. In the days that follow, the explorers begin to feel the weight of their situation. Supplies continue to dwindle. The cold presses harder, and the land seems to grow more hostile with each step. They can't understand why things seem to get more difficult, why simple tasks become insurmountable challenges. What they don't know, what they cannot see, is the subtle push from the Inuit. Every time they attempt to take more from the land, every time they try to push further into areas that the Inuit consider sacred, something holds them back. Their hunting parties return with less, their routes are blocked, their efforts thwarted by forces they cannot comprehend. You, as an Inuit, know the balance here. You are not actively fighting them. You are simply ensuring that the land is respected. The tension grows, but it is silent, woven into the fabric of the land itself. The explorers don't fully understand why things are so difficult for them, but the Inuit are aware this is not their world to dominate. The land belongs to those who understand it, and the explorers are simply guests. As you watch from the distance, you feel a quiet sense of pride. The land is speaking to them, and it is teaching them what they refuse to learn, that survival here is not about control. It is about respect and understanding. As the explorers continue their struggle, the land presses upon them with an unspoken quiet force. Each day seems harder than the last. Their supplies continue to shrink, their bodies grow weaker, and the cold grows more relentless. every step forward feels like a battle against nature itself. The simplest of tasks, setting up camp, building a shelter, even making a fire, becomes a monumental challenge. They don't understand why everything feels so much harder now. The snow, which once seemed so simple to navigate, is now an obstacle at every turn. The cold, which they thought they could endure, with their thick layers of clothing, now seeps into their bones, draining their strength. The explorers cannot see it, but you, as an Inuit, do. They are being subtly pushed back, not by force, but by a delicate balance that the land demands. The Inuit, silent and unseen, have not launched an attack. There have been no overt actions to force the explorers to turn back. Instead, the land itself is responding. Every time the explorers attempt to push deeper into territory that the Inuit hold sacred, every time they overstep the invisible boundaries of respect, the land pushes back, almost as if it's gently reminding them that they are not masters here, they are visitors. Their hunting parties return empty-handed more often than not. The animals, the caribou, and the seals move in ways they can't predict. They have no luck finding the food they need. The Inuit, though they live in the same land, know where to look when to hunt and how to find sustenance. But to the explorers, the land feels increasingly hostile, the animals elusive, and their tools ineffective. The land is not cooperating, and yet they don't realize that it is not the land that has changed. It is their understanding of it that is flawed. You watch them from a distance, observing their growing frustration. They don't understand what is happening to them. They feel trapped, but they don't know why. Their maps, once filled with promises of discovery, now mock them. They press on their hearts heavy with doubt, but there is no way forward. The land doesn't care about their ambition. It doesn't care about their maps. It simply is. And until they learn to move with it rather than against it, the land will remain an impenetrable force. You are not trying to drive them away, not in the way they might think. You are simply ensuring that the land stays balanced, that it remains respected. You do not chase them. You do not attack. But you are there, watching, ensuring they don't overstep, ensuring they don't take more than the land can give. This is your world. Your people have lived here for generations, and you have learned the delicate balance that exists between survival and respect. As you observe the explorers, you feel a quiet pride. They are learning slowly but surely that this land cannot be dominated. They cannot force it to yield to their will, no matter how much they push, how much they struggle. The Arctic is not a place for control. It is a place for understanding. You can almost sense their frustration beginning to turn into something else, an understanding, albeit a reluctant one, that they are guests here, not conquerors. They will not master this land, and in their struggle they will come to realize that the true strength lies not in domination, but in respect and adaptation. You continue to watch as the days turn into weeks, as the explorers' efforts grow more desperate, their frustration more palpable. You don't need to intervene. The land is doing its job. It is teaching them the lesson they need to learn one step at a time. And in time, when they have faced the full force of the Arctic's indifference, they may finally understand survival. Here is not about control. It's about moving with the rhythms of the land, about respecting its power, and about learning to live in harmony with it. Only then will they truly understand what it means to survive in the Arctic. The long winter, with its relentless cold, has worn down the explorers. Their faces are gaunt from hunger, their movements slow and laborious. The optimism that once sparked their journey has long since faded, replaced by a quiet resignation. Their once strong determination to conquer the Arctic has dissolved in the face of its unyielding power. Every step they take now feels like a struggle against a force they can never hope to understand, let alone defeat. The land which they thought they could master has shown them its true nature. The cold has crept into their bones, and the snow has buried their hopes. Their maps have become irrelevant, their compasses useless. They are no longer adventurers. They are survivors clinging to the fading remnants of their mission. The dream of finding the Northwest Passage is now just a distant memory, a foolish pursuit that seems more and more like an illusion. You, as an Inuit, watch from a distance, your eyes steady and calm. There is no satisfaction in their suffering, only the quiet recognition that they are finally beginning to understand what the land has been trying to teach them. The Arctic is not a place to be conquered, it is a place to be endured. As the explorers trudge forward, their steps growing heavier with each passing day, you sense the shift in their spirit. The Arctic, relentless and unforgiving, has worn them down in ways they never imagined. Their bodies are weak from hunger, their faces gaunt from the cold, and their once confident voices have now become whispers, drowned out by the howling wind and the crushing silence of the snow. They are no longer the ambitious adventurers who set out with dreams of discovery. They have become something else now, survivors struggling to endure in a world they cannot control. You watch them from a distance, standing still in the snow. Your gaze is calm, detached, though there is an understanding in your eyes. The land, as always, has shown them its true face, a place where dreams and ambitions hold no sway. The explorers thought they could map it, conquer it, push through it. But the Arctic has no use for such things. It simply exists, indifferent to the human desire to shape it. The cold that has seeped into their bones is not an enemy to fight, but a reminder that here survival is not about dominance, but about patience, respect, and a deep understanding of the land. As you observe them, You see the last flickers of hope fading in their eyes. They had believed the Arctic was an obstacle to overcome something that could be tamed with effort and force. But now, their maps are crumpled and useless. Their compasses no longer provide the guidance they once did. They are lost, not just in the physical sense, but in a deeper, more humbling way. They have wandered into a land that does not care for their plans, their desires, or their will. The Arctic does not bend for them, does not yield to their ambition. It simply is vast and cold as it always has been. You do not feel the need to intervene. There is no satisfaction in their failure. The lesson the Arctic has taught them is not one of cruelty, but of wisdom. A wisdom that comes only through experience, through living with the land, rather than trying to force it into human understanding. The explorers are beginning to understand this, even if they cannot yet fully comprehend it. They are learning that survival in the Arctic is not a victory. It is a quiet, unassuming endurance. It is not about reaching a destination, but about learning how to exist within the forces of nature, to bend with it, not against it. The explorers continue to struggle, but you know they will eventually turn back. They are too far in now to push forward, and their bodies can no longer take the strain. They are learning that the Arctic is not a place for quick fixes, for bold attempts at domination. It is a place that waits patiently for those who are willing to adapt to live in its rhythm. And so as you watch them falter, your heart is not filled with pity, nor with satisfaction. It is simply filled with a quiet recognition that they are beginning to understand, however slowly, however painfully, that the Arctic is not something to conquer. It is something to endure, something to respect. You return to your own world, your own rhythm, knowing that life here continues unhurried, unbroken, and in harmony with the land. The explorers, defeated by the cold they sought to conquer, will leave soon enough, but the Arctic will remain. It is not theirs to control, and it never will be. The land is patient. It has nothing to prove. It simply is. As the explorers slowly pack up their bodies, heavy with defeat, the Inuit continue their lives as they always have. The land, the snow, the cold, all of it remains unchanged. The Inuit move through their world with quiet ease, unaffected by the struggles that have broken the explorers. Their homes, crafted from snow and ice, stand firm and strong against the wind. The animals continue their cycles, the seals and caribou moving through the frozen landscape as they have for centuries. There is no victory in the way the explorers would recognize it, no loud triumph, no conquest. The Inuit do not boast. They simply live. Their resilience is quiet, hidden in the way they move through the land, in the ease with which they hunt and gather, in the calm of their daily routines. The explorers may leave their mission abandoned, but the Inuit remain untouched by the hardships that have brought the explorers to their knees. You stand watching from the edge of the camp as the explorers gather their things and begin to retreat. There is no need to confront them. The land has done its work. They are leaving defeated not by any single force, but by the collective power of nature, of time, of a land that will not yield to them. As you stand there observing the explorers slowly pack up, there is a quiet peace in the air. The Arctic, untouched and unyielding, remains as it always has been, silent and indifferent. The explorers, defeated by the very forces they sought to overcome, gather their equipment, their shoulders heavy with the weight of their failure. They speak little now, their voices thin and strained as they prepare to leave the land that has bested them. They had hoped to conquer it, to claim it as their own, but instead they are leaving with nothing but the bitter knowledge that the Arctic does not bow to human ambition. You do not approach them. There is no need. The land has done what it always does. It has shown them its power, its indifference to their desires. The Inuit do not need to boast or revel in their retreat. You know that their mission, their dream of discovery, has ended not through force or violence, but through the quiet persistence of nature. The cold, the snow, the ice, all of these are simply part of life here. And the explorers have learned, as so many have before them, that to survive here is not about conquering the land, but about coexisting with it. As the explorers turn away from the camp, their eyes downcast, their backs bent under the weight of their failure, you feel no sense of triumph. There is no joy in their retreat, only the calm realization that they have learned a truth that cannot be ignored. The Arctic is not a place to conquer. It is a place to endure. It does not yield to ambition or glory, but to those who are willing to live with it, to move in harmony with its rhythm. The Inuit continue with their lives, unaffected by the explorers' departure. Their homes made of snow and ice stand as they always have, strong and resilient against the wind. The seals and caribou too continue their cycles as they have for centuries, unaffected by the presence of outsiders. Life here does not stop for anyone, and the Inuit know this better than anyone. The land remains steady, unshaken, indifferent to the passing of time. You return to your own people, your own world, with the quiet understanding that the Arctic will always remain as it is, a world that does not need to be conquered, but simply respected. The explorers have learned this in their own way, though they may never fully understand it. Their mission has ended, but the Arctic remains untouched and unchanged. The Inuit remain too, as they always have, enduring and thriving in the face of the harshest conditions. As you walk through the snow, your breath visible in the cold, there is a deep peace in knowing that the Arctic, with all its challenges, will continue. It is not a place for conquest. It is a place for survival, for respect, for living with the land, not against it. And as long as the Inuit remain, as long as they continue to move through this world with quiet ease, the land will remain as it has always been, undisturbed, unbroken, and forever steadfast. As the explorers turn away, their journey ended, you can't help but reflect on what this moment means. The Inuit have thrived in this harsh environment for generations, enduring the bitter winters, the long nights, the relentless cold. Yet there is no boast in their survival. It is simply a part of life here. Survival in the Arctic is not about fighting against the land, but about understanding it, respecting it, and moving in tune with its rhythms. The Inuit know this instinctively. The cold is not an enemy to fight, but a part of the world to coexist with. The explorers in their pursuit of glory have failed to understand this simple truth. They sought to conquer the land to bend it to their will. But the Arctic is not something to be mastered. It is a place that exists beyond human ambition. The explorers came seeking to dominate, but what they found was a lesson in humility. The Arctic did not break them. It simply revealed that their strength alone was not enough to conquer this world. You watch them leave, their heads bowed, their shoulders heavy with the weight of their failure. There is no satisfaction in their defeat, only a quiet sense of understanding. The Inuit have endured, not because they are stronger or braver, but because they understand the land in a way the explorers never will. They have learned to live with the land, not against it, and in that they find their strength. As the explorers depart, their footprints slowly disappearing into the vast white expanse, you feel the weight of their journey ending. They are no longer the proud adventurers who first set out with such grand ambitions, but defeated, humbled by the very land they sought to conquer. Their heads are bowed, their eyes downcast as if acknowledging the truth they had resisted for so long. The Arctic has shown them that there is no mastery here, only survival. There is no domination to be had, no land to claim for themselves. Instead, the Arctic demands something far more difficult: to give respect, patience, and understanding. You, as an Inuit, remain calm, unwavering in your quiet recognition. There is no need to celebrate their defeat. The Arctic itself does not rejoice in their failure. It simply continues, indifferent and eternal as it always has. It is a place that neither celebrates nor condemns. It simply is. The explorers' struggle, their efforts to master what they could not, is nothing more than a moment in time, a fleeting instance in the unbroken flow of the land's vast history. The Inuit, on the other hand, have always known this. Their survival is not a matter of force or might, but of moving with the land's rhythm, of understanding its language, and coexisting with its challenges. As you watch them leave, a sense of quiet pride settles within you, not because the explorers have failed, but because the land has once again proven its resilience. The Inuit, are not conquerors and never have been. They are simply part of this world in harmony with it, finding strength in their ability to adapt and survive, not to control. The explorers, despite their advanced tools, their maps, and their unyielding determination, have not understood this truth. They came seeking to bend the Arctic to their will, and it was that very attempt that led to their defeat. In the quiet of the vast frozen expanse, you recognize the lesson that the Arctic has taught them, a lesson in humility, in respect for the land's power. The explorers, with their ambition and their desire for glory, have come to see what the Inuit have known for centuries, that survival in this land is not a matter of conquering. It is a matter of understanding, of patience, and of respecting the balance of nature. The explorers leave their spirits broken, but they take with them something far more valuable than any treasure. They could have found the understanding that the Arctic is not theirs to command. It is theirs to respect. As you turn away, returning to the rhythm of your daily life, you know that the land will remain as it always has been, untouched by the ambitions of outsiders, unbroken by the struggles of those who seek to dominate it. The Inuit will continue, as they always have, living in harmony with the Arctic. And the explorers, though they will leave, will carry with them the quiet lesson that the Arctic offers to all who enter that survival. Here is not about mastering the land, but about learning to live with it. As the explorers fade into the distance, leaving the Arctic behind them, a soft peace settles over the land. The Inuit return to their routines, unshaken by the intrusion that has come and gone. The snow continues to fall. The cold continues to bite, and the animals continue their path. Nothing has changed for the Inuit. The world continues its slow, steady rhythm, untouched by the ambitions of outsiders. You, as an Inuit, feel no need to celebrate their departure. There is no victory to claim. The Arctic remains as it always has been, a world that demands respect, patience, and understanding. And in the quiet resolution of winter, you know that the land has spoken. It has taught the explorers the hardest of lessons, that true survival here is not about force, but about harmony. It is a peaceful closure, a return to the balance that has always existed quietly and without fanfare. As the last traces of the explorers disappear into the distance, you return to your people, your life, your world, and the land remains the Arctic, vast and unyielding, but still yours. Your survival is not a matter of conquering, it is a matter of enduring, of respecting, and of living in harmony with the world around you. And in that quiet resilience, you have already won. As you make your way back to your people, the sound of your footsteps in the snow is the only noise in the stillness. The explorers have left their departure as quiet and unobtrusive as their arrival, though they were unaware of how fleeting their presence truly was in the grand scheme of things. The land does not hold grudges, nor does it celebrate victory. It simply continues its ancient rhythm, the same rhythm that the Inuit have lived by for generations. The snow continues to fall gently, covering the world in a blanket of quiet calm. The wind howls in the distance, carrying with it the promise of more harsh days ahead, but it does not deter you. You are part of this world, and it is part of you. The animals continue their cycles, the seals swimming beneath the ice, the caribou moving across the snow-covered plains. Their lives follow a path that has been carved out by nature itself, a path that does not bend to the will of human ambition. They are not concerned with glory, with discovery, or with domination. They live to survive, to find balance, to coexist with the land in ways that humans have long forgotten or misunderstood. As you approach your village, you see the familiar sight of your people continuing their routines. They are unshaken by the intrusion that came and went. Their lives are simple, centered around the rhythms of the land, the animals, the seasons. There is no grand celebration of the explorer's departure, no sense of triumph. For the Inuit survival is not something to be celebrated. It is simply a way of life, a quiet understanding of how to live in harmony with the world around them. You join your people, and the world continues on as it always has. The fire burns in the center of the village warmth, spreading through the cold night air. The sounds of your people talking, laughing, and living fill the space around you. But there is no urgency, no rush. Time here moves differently. It moves in cycles, in rhythms that are not driven by ambition, but by the steady pulse of nature itself. And in the quiet of the night, as the snow continues to fall softly outside, you know that the lesson the land has taught is one that will endure for generations. It has shown the explorers the futility of their ambitions, the arrogance of their desire to conquer. But it has also shown them in the harshest way possible that survival here is not about force, but about respect, patience, and understanding. It is about living in balance with the world, not trying to bend it to your will. The Arctic, vast and unyielding, will remain. And for those who understand its language, for those who move with its rhythm, it will always offer what is needed: shelter, sustenance, and the quiet peace of knowing how to coexist with a world that does not demand to be mastered, only respected. In this, the Inuit have already won. In their quiet resilience, they have found the strength to endure, to live with the land as it is, and to teach others the value of respect and understanding. The Arctic continues as it always has, timeless and true. Conclusion. As the explorers retreat, fading into the distant past, one thing remains unchanged: the snow. The winds continue to howl across the frozen plains, carrying with them the ancient voice of the Arctic. The land, so vast and indifferent, continues to pulse with its own rhythm, indifferent to the ambitions of those who seek to master it. The explorers, their mission, abandoned, have long since disappeared from this place, but the Inuit remain undeterred and unfazed by the world beyond their icy borders. The Inuit have lived here for generations, enduring the bitter winters, the long nights, and the relentless cold. Their story is simple yet profound. It is not a story of conquest or victory, but one of survival. It is a story of resilience, a quiet, steadfast strength that has allowed them to thrive in a place that offers no mercy to those who seek to bend it to their will. In their quiet way, the Inuit have learned the most important lesson of all. Survival is not about force. It is about understanding, respecting, and living in harmony with the land. You might reflect for a moment as you settle into the warmth of your home on the strength of the Inuit people. Their way of life is not flashy or dramatic, yet it is enduring. They know how to move with the land, to listen to the winds and the ice, to respect the harshness of the world they inhabit. They are not defeated by the cold, but rather work with it, carving out a life in the most unforgiving of environments. Their strength lies in their ability to adapt, to remain calm and steady in the face of the most extreme conditions. It is a reminder to us all that survival is not about power or conquest, but about finding balance, patience, and respect for the world around us. Now, as the snow falls gently outside your window, take a moment to remember the quiet secrets of the Arctic, the resilience that is etched into its frozen beauty, the calm endurance of those who have lived here for centuries. Let the stillness of this story, the quiet wisdom of the Inuit, guide you into a peaceful sleep. Just as the Arctic endures, so too does the quiet strength of the human spirit when we learn to move with the land and not against it. Sleep well, and may you carry with you the quiet peace of the Arctic, where survival is not a battle to be fought, but a harmony to be found. Good night.